Peace, family, V Darling here, the Cosmic Queen and your intergalactic interpreter. And I just wanted to get a read on the energy of this year in the 3D and how that relates to like those of us who are vibrating at a higher frequency as well. Because I feel like there's going to be a lot that happens this year that we just want to be mindful of and be aware of and, really prepare for. So I am tuning into the energy of what's happening in the 3D and this year, 2023, and how we can best engage with it and how we can best deal with it. And how we can use it for our best, period, because it's a lot. So I'm going to share my screen so that I can also talk about what I am seeing in the chart. I also just want to get a look at the ephemeris for this year. We're going to use the sidereal. When we started out this year, actually I feel like the bottom of the deck is Inner Temple Devotion, tune into the portal of your heart. And this is going to be the overall energy, and that's the bottom of the deck. And the top of the deck is Priestess. How are you being called to step up and to lead? And this is Isis depicted here. And so I feel like we're really being called to come into a space of leadership. And this really has a lot to do with taking back our power. With the Inner Temple card, I feel like devotion, tune into the portal of your heart. We are being called back into our power, and everything that's going to happen this year is really just inviting us to do that more and more and more, because that is the purpose of, that is the purpose of our life, our existence. It's always to bring us more onto our capital S self, and the capital S self is the self that is divine. That is what I call the divine spark. And so any kind of discomfort that we are experiencing is a message from our inner self, and from our higher power of how we can get where we are out of alignment. And the question that we want to ask ourselves is, how can I get more in alignment? How can I be more in tune with my higher self? How can I be? And if you notice here, we have this orb. And here we have this orb, and I'm seeing that as the divine spark. And this is here at her sacral chakra, and this is here in the cosmos. So this is really calling us. This year is going to be extremely challenging. That much I'm definitely aware of. And birthing a new age, birthing new creation, streaming a new world into being. This is us in this space in the 5-6D. And this is us in the 3D. And so we came here to assist in the birthing of a new age. We came here to take part in the manifestation of a new age. So what we're being called to do is to ground that reality, and to ground the light realms, the higher vibrations in the 3D, and that's going to help to progress humanity and to progress the energies of the earth. And I'm hearing Tiamat, to bring Tiamat more into alignment. And that is a higher vibrational earth, and we're awakening that, and we're bringing up the frequency of the planet little by little, through our actions. And it is just as, there are entities and energies that are incapable of manifesting in the 3D, and they use vessels to express themselves in the 3D and to make their presence known in the 3D. One thing that we could talk about is egregores. Egregores are thought forms. So race is an egregore. Race is not actually a biological scientific fact. It is a social fact. It is a social machination, a creation that human beings made up and created this structure of thinking and enforce it upon others. And it's not real unless we make it so. If we express the ideologies of race, of gender, any social ideation, if we express those things, we make it real. But if we don't, then it no longer has any power. And so the same is also true of, that's true of any energy. And so that means that, like, as much as we're going to see demonic forces manifesting in the 3D, and we have been seeing that mounting more and more, as much as we see that, we also are able to enact, and we see this, the orbs are also on these people's heart, because we're being encouraged to, we've been going through a purging process in order to activate our Merkaba and activate our celestial power as divine beings. I'm feeling energy surging in my left palm. And so this is manifestation energy. We're being called to understand that we don't have to go out and do and force anybody else to be like us. We just have to do it ourselves and set that example. And I'm hearing be the calm in the storm. I want to get an idea of, what's going to be happening in the social world. I'm hearing social collapse. And this may be seen as a bad thing. It's definitely going to be uncomfortable, but if there's a collapse, and I'm getting from the bottom of the deck for Pentacles in the indirect position. And this to me is talking about the inverted feminine. And also this to me is reading as, like, as I look at this card, this is the crystal visions, or the crystal visions tarot deck. This to me is reading as, like, the purging that we are experiencing is going to allow the our abundance to come in, the beautiful things of life. And so where we are clinging way too hard to structures that are already in place, how can we allow, actually, I feel like it's coming back to indigeneity, and it's calling us to come back into the facts of life, is what I'm hearing, the facts of life. And what that means to me is it's calling us to divest from the illusion. And that's what's going to be happening in the social world. More and more people are opening up to the reality of how things are. It's becoming impossible for people to hide from the social reality. Whereas before, when there was less upheaval, it was easier for people to stick their head in the sand and pretend that they couldn't see what was very clearly going on in front of us. It's becoming harder to be able to do that. The illusion is falling, is what I'm hearing. And it's reminding me of that scene in Harry Potter in it's not the 5th movie, I get the devil in reverse. The ministry has fallen, they are coming, they are coming. That is the message that Kingsley Shacklebolt sent to I think the Order of the Phoenix. Yeah, it's the 5th movie. I think it's either the 5th or the 6th movie, but either way, that's what is coming to me. And we're going to see a lot of political unrest coming up. And there's going to be a lot of revolutions and like violent revolutions. We're already seeing this happening in a lot of countries all over the world. It's not being reported as loudly as it should be, even if we are seeing it on some some more alternative media channels. This is not something that's like being widely talked about, but we're seeing it in the Middle East, we're seeing it in South America, we're seeing it all over the world, that people are getting fed up and they are taking back their power because the devil in reverse. People are no longer allowing the same demonic structures to proliferate and perpetuate. People are taking back their power. And this is what I was saying about at the bottom of the deck, the inner temple, devotion, tune into the portal of your heart. We're coming back into alignment with the planet. And as we do that, and we're coming back into integration with the universe and with our own divinity. And as we do that, see, this is a portal that we're stepping through. And a lot of people are coming into this awakening. And as we're doing that, people are finding that they're no longer able to stand for what they were able to stand for before. If you are not willing to stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And people were unwilling to stand for things because they were comfortable, but now people are no longer going to be comfortable. And I'm seeing Egypt, I'm seeing Ireland. I feel like there's going to be a lot of unrest. I'm seeing, political unrest in Western countries is going to be on the rise, and they're going to try to use it to fearmonger and hope that people are going to, fall into cowardice. But really, I see people coming back into their power and taking their power. And that is unfortunately going to bottom of the deck with the Cosmic Tarot's 3 of Wands. That is unfortunately going to be violent, and we get the Ace of Wands because a new energy is coming in from the cosmos. We are in a shift, there's a shift going on energetically that cannot be ignored. And so a lot of people, have just been unable to access certain things where people are like, oh, NPCs, these people are incapable of waking up. And it's like, no, actually a lot of people's trauma is keeping them from being able to see things. And also there have been spells and curses that have been up that are no longer up, they're falling, they're collapsing. These veils of illusion, these structures of delusion are collapsing and collectively. And as much as they try, we get the Death card in the reverse position. And I feel like this is saying, actually, like, this is new life. We've been going through the dying process. And now, where things were exploding, things are starting to like fall back down and settle down. With the 3 of Wands, I feel like socially people are going to be, as I said, they're really going to be coming back. I've been hearing raw a lot lately, and the sun is very present in this card. I feel like people are going to start doing work that they have never done before because, like, we are living in a new age. We are living in a new energy. You get the 2 of Wands and the sun is behind the cloud there. People are going to feel empowered in ways that they never felt empowered before. And it's going to be very paradoxical to be seeing all of these really fucked up things happening out in the world around us. But what I want to encourage people to be aware of is that, you get the Queen of Swords in the reverse position. The way that we were operating before, these awakenings are causing a consciousness shift. These energetic awakenings are causing a consciousness shift. This is something that we are coming into alignment where people have been super polarized, and we see here where people have been super polarized and they've just been like really self-obsessed and really just like for themselves and not really thinking too much. This card is coming out. Actually, Spirit wants it to stay in there, but protection, call back your power, cut the cord, soul retrieval. As I said, and we see that there's an eclipse here. The powers that be want us to think that we're incapable of calling back our power, and they want us to feel disempowered, and so they're using those same old tactics that they've always used because those are the only tactics that they're capable of. And Spirit is saying, like, really do the trauma healing work, really do the shadow healing work, because if you're incapable of facing those things, you know, I used to tell myself, do 3 brave things every day. And they can be big or they can be small. Sometimes it's just a matter of like, you know, if somebody like is walking slowly in front of you and like is taking up the whole sidewalk and you can't get past them, just being like, hey, excuse me, and going past them if you have somewhere to be, you know what I mean? No longer wasting time in places that like you don't have time to waste, you know? And sometimes it's as big as like you call back your power, cut the cord, soul retrieval. And I actually always say like pull the cord out, because if you cut it, it's still inside of you. But if you pull the cord out, it is no longer inside of you, and you can replace you in the place of that cord. You can choose what energy you put there and seal it up. But yeah, where we were operating from a capitalistic, like inverted feminine paradigm where we're like super independent, we're actually like hyper masculine, and I feel like gender wars is coming up. So you're gonna see a lot of like gender war stuff of like men versus women. And Spirit is really saying to just like, that's not real. That is because what has been happening is actually a lot of people are coming into union of their own yin and yang energy, their own masculine and feminine energy, to cultivate oneness instead of the separation where we're like oscillating between extremes. We're coming into balance and harmony within ourselves, and that is allowing us to be able to do that. So Spirit is really saying, like, don't believe everything that you see on the news, because it's not necessarily that they're lying, it is manipulation. So like where you maybe see like a bunch of like people are saying like this is happening in our society, and like it's really important to focus on what's actually happening in your real world. Don't worry about fixing society, worry about or concern yourself, put your energy into dealing with what's actually in front of you, what's going on in your community, what's going on in your relationships. And it's also a matter of like, what are we focusing on? Because what we focus what we use our mental focus on, and that's energy, what we use our mental focus on amplifies. So do we want to focus on like, oh, all men are shit? And yes, you know, like statistically and sociologically, you know, we do live in a cis hetero patriarchy. We live in an anti-Indigenous, anti-Black, racist paradigm that is also just like killing the planet and killing life on Earth. It is a death machine. But what are we choosing to focus on? Are we choosing to despair? And what's happening in the external world is really going to encourage us to, I'm hearing chaos. But I did receive a message from Kali Ma, who is a Hindu deity. She is the mother, she is a warrior, and she is a demon slayer. And was expressing like, you know, everything that's happening externally, where this demonic shadow empire is like using the false matrix to trigger us and to get us like dysregulated and out of alignment. Trust that all of that is being used to actually bring us deeper into ourselves, deeper into our power. These challenging situations are actually able to call us more into alignment with who we are and what we are. If we're willing to put aside the divisiveness, if we're willing to stop trying to be at the top of the pyramid, the top of the hierarchy, do away with the social hierarchies, come into a space of compassion and love and understanding for our fellow beings. All this NPC crap is the most like heinous, dehumanizing, bizarre shit. And honestly, if you're claiming to be a Gnostic, the Gnostic understanding is that sure, maybe in this lifetime people may not, and I'm having itching in my right palm, so I feel like some people are not able to awaken in this lifetime, and our job isn't to force them to awaken in this lifetime. Our job is to be an example, to be a way shower. Our job is to pursue our own awakening, period. Don't worry about what nobody else is doing. And I got this when I did this reading before for the new year. Don't worry about what anybody else is doing. That's not any of your business. That's not important. Concern yourself with what's in front of you. Where are your feet? Okay. The idea that like some people are just not going to wake up in this lifetime, and that just has to be okay. And that's something that we have to accept. People have free will. The Gnostic understanding is that eventually they will. It's their karmic journey. Eventually they will. So to say that just because somebody is not awakened in this lifetime means that they're not actually a human being, they're an NPC, like that, anything that is divisive is not of the divine, period. So I'm going to pull from first, actually get the Queen of Wands in the reverse position. I feel like we're going to see a lot of emasculation happening. A lot of people in political power, a lot of powerful people, billionaires, rich people, you know, like, I mean, Elon Musk took a massive, massive hit to his billions. You know, a lot of billionaires are going to, and actually a lot of billionaires in the past year have really been taking financial hits, and that's going to continue happening because they built their foundation on exploitation. They built their foundation using, you know, upon the machinations of, and I'm going to encourage you to just look that word up, like get the dictionary definition. I'm going to get the dictionary definition actually. A machination, an act or instance of machinating, usually machinations, crafty schemes, plots, intrigues. To contrive or plot, especially artfully or with evil purpose. So, you know, the creations, the structures of the false matrix, which I choose to call colonialism. So I've already defined that as a-spiritualism, cis heteropatriarchy, anti-indigeneity, anti-blackness, white domination and racism, capitalism and industrialism, all of those things that are built on that, we're seeing the collapse of those things. Just as we saw with these cards, like the seventh seal is broken. As I said, they are coming, and they are coming. I feel like we are receiving beings from higher dimensions are waging wars in higher dimensions, and also the activations that are going to be happening, like preparing us for more ET visitations. But yeah, anything that was built on these structures is collapsing, it's falling. Like these things cannot exist in this new world that we are birthing, this new world that we are building together as a collective. So we're seeing a lot of those people falling from power. We're seeing a lot of, and it's going to be celebrities as well. I'm hearing Beyonce. I've been seeing a lot coming up about Jay-Z, so I feel like there's going to be a scandal about him, maybe something to do with embezzlement. And I think that he's even potentially going to be arrested. A lot of these power players in the music industry who have been wrapped up in really demonic doings and evil misconduct, a lot of the people who are participating in, rape and I want to say pillaging, honestly, because they are pillaging communities through inseminating cultural norms of like just diabolical scale. So like the encouraging of people to like live exorbitant lifestyles that are really out of their means and also not productive, just really harmful, those sorts of things. Like, and we've been seeing a lot of rappers dying lately. So a lot of these people, like, they're falling on their own sword is what spirit is telling me. And that's not something that we need to get super wrapped up in. Spirit's saying like, don't worry about what's going on in the zeitgeist with like celebrities and stuff, because that's none of our business. I get the Princess of Cups here. And I do feel like that is saying like, we're coming into our power, we're taking back our power, and there's a new age of celebrity that is rising. It's people who are actually divinely aligned, divinely activated, supernatural, people like Callie Uchis, who is she's a mermaid, she's a siren, and she uses her powers for good, as opposed to people who use their powers to exploit others. And so this is what this is about. These exploitative systems are not going to be allowed to proliferate. And you get the 7 of Cups in the direct position. So there's going to be a lot of like purging of these sick indoctrinations. And as it's happening on the social scale, it's also going to happen to each of us personally in our own worlds. And I'm feeling it right here in like my high heart. The high heart is becoming more and more powerful. It's gaining momentum, it's gaining an energy. And as that's happening, this Ace of Wands is coming out again. This new energy is being birthed through us, and we just have to let that happen. Let it happen, because that's how we're going to come into alignment with what is for us. So there's a lot of loss that is experienced here, and but we get the Wheel of Fortune. There's a lot of loss that's experienced here, but that's bringing us more into what is actually for us, a harmonious resonance with the world around us. So I want to take a look. I want to take a look at the chart. And so we have here in Taurus, we have Fortuna and we have Mars. At the time it was retrograde, it's no longer retrograde. We have Fortuna at 23 degrees, that's a 5. And so that to me means that like we have also the 14 degrees of Mars is a 5 as well. In our relationships, in our material relationships, and I feel like this has to do with like blood and incarnation. We are being challenged because we are being called to let go of old patterns and old relationships. It's karma, 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 karma. The more that we let go of these things and the more that we just live the life that we want to live. And it sounds so easy, but it's not as easy as it sounds, because we know that there are reasons why we do the things that we do, but these self-sabotaging behaviors, this is why I say like we have to do the trauma healing work, get a therapist. The things that are about to go down, you don't need to go through those things alone. Find a 12-step group, find a community that like aligns with you, and start to grow in the communities that have the same spirit as you. It's not about they think the same as you. It's not about they look the same as you. It's about the spirit, and they have the same heart as you, and they operate from that space. Find those people, because they're going to be the ones who keep us grounded, and they're going to be the ones that take us into the higher aspects of existence, because we don't have to participate in the suffering that's going to be going on in the greater, the wider world. I'm seeing volcano eruptions. I'm seeing volcanoes like I'm seeing, like, I did hear other readers talking about like volcanoes on the North American continent, in the United States erupting. I do feel like there are going to be more, and this is going to cause a lot of, like, I'm hearing pollution. And so I think that, like, maybe even covering of, like, just causing, like, covering of the sun in the skies, you know what I mean, with like smoke and that sort of thing. I do feel like the wildfires are going to be really bad this year. I feel like there's going to be a lot of chaos. I do feel like there's going to be a lot of earthquakes in Los Angeles. I feel like there's going to be chaos in Los Angeles. I'm hearing Rodney King. It's going to be on the level of like Rodney King type stuff. But once again, as I said, like, just know that you are divinely protected. Call on your angels, call on your ancestors, your spirit guides to protect you and guide you and lead you. Listen to your intuition, because this is calling us to listen to our intuition, to move by faith, not by sight. If you feel like, oh, I got to get out of this place, spirit is calling me to get out of this place, don't be like, oh, well, I have this job, or like, oh, well, I have this, like, I just bought this house or whatever. Like, if you're being called to move, move. Because those of us who are highly sensitive are going to get that animal call. You know, I've talked about this before, but like, when deluge happened, indigenous peoples, Polynesian peoples spoke about it, and they knew that it was coming because they were in tune with the earth and with the cosmos, and they moved up onto mountains and they were able to survive the deluge. And this is something that is recorded in Iliada. Mircea Eliade is a Romanian historian of religion, and he has a book, the first book that I ever read in my first university level comparative religions class. This is recorded in that book, and I don't remember what it's called, but if I remember, I'll put it in the notes. And once again, the Wheel of Fortune comes out, King of Wands energy, Prince of Cups energy. Spirit is saying, like, really, I feel like these two are kind of they are together. Like, Spirit is saying King of Wands energy is like, we have to remember that we are the master of our domain. We are the master of our reality. And that doesn't mean that we control reality for everyone, nor does it mean that we're the person who, you know, makes the earthquake and makes the waters rise. Okay, that's not what that means. But it does mean that we make our own decisions. So if we choose to stick around, despite the fact that we are getting intuitive hits from our own power, from within ourselves, if we can't trust ourselves, who can we trust? You know what I mean? Like, we are taking back our power here, just as this card says, and we're making our own decisions, and understand that we have to be accountable to them, right? So listen to your heart, listen to your gut, and allow yourself to be moved. Allow yourself to come more into connection with your higher power. I'm seeing with this Prince of Cups, like the masculine integration with the feminine energy. And so this is bringing us more into oneness, where we're not going to have such like polarized ups and downs. We're coming into balance because we've been doing that work. There's a guy rowing in the background, and I've noticed this before on this part. The Prince of Cups is kind of like the Knight of Cups in this, and you know what I want to encourage people to do is, because there's going to be a lot of chaos happening, it's really important that we're actually meditating. And I'm seeing a bird in this card, so like maybe it has to do with Arcturians, but for me it really has to do with like spirituality and like specifically in this instance, our ancestors. I feel like we're being called to really tap into our ancestral spiritual lineages. And it's saying like there's going to be a lot of triggering stuff going on outside of us. So what we need to do before we make any rash decisions is to like meditate on it, ask our ancestors, pray about it, you know, seek guidance, spiritual guidance. You know what I mean? If there's something that you want to do, but you feel like you may be acting from emotion, because this is the Prince of Cups, it's water. You have the scorpion here, so it has to do with Scorpio. You know what I mean? Like, and it's the King of Wands and the Prince of Cups. So obviously, like where we have come into a place of mastery of the 3D, we are still navigating choppy waters, choppy waters. So we have to be wise when we're making our decisions. I'm not saying like, oh, just jump up and do something because you feel like you should, because it could be a trauma response. It could be a fear response. If you've been cultivating a mental and emotional health support community, like with your therapist, if you need a psychiatrist, if you have a psychologist, like these are people that you want to be doing your work with and running things by. But ultimately what you need to be doing is checking in with spirit. There was something that I like really I wanted to call someone out on something. And I decided to ask a friend, and then I decided, who is also spiritual in the way that I am. And then I decided to watch a pick a card. And I watched a yes or no pick a card. And before they even said yes or no, like I knew from what they were saying that what the answer was. And the answer was like, no, don't do that thing, because like this is a transient moment and this energy is going to move and this energy is going to change. So don't make any sudden moves rather. But do check in with spirit in all that we do, and trust our feminine wisdom. Just because it's in the unseen doesn't mean that it's not, that it's not true, or that it's not real, or that it's not really happening. I also want to say that there's going to be a lot of ending of relationships happening as we come more into alignment with ourselves, because a lot of these relationships that we've been in have been built on toxic power dynamics. A lot of power plays have been going on, and Spirit is saying we're calling back our energy from those relationships, and we're being called to really pay attention to how people's energy shifts when we call back our power. If things have been in uneven distribution of power for a long time, and you've been trying to take back your power, and it's just like, that it's not working, just put an end to that relationship, because that's what's draining us of our material wealth and abundance. And the more that we do that, the more that we experience moksha, the more that we experience liberation, and the more that we experience that within ourselves spiritually and emotionally, the more that that's going to happen in the material realm as well. Spirit is calling me to look at Capricorn here in the 5th house. This has to do with our creative expression, and I feel like I kept hearing laparoscopic, which is the type of incision that is made to basically tie your tubes. So that's it, is when they lacerate your tubes so that you cannot give birth. You can't get pregnant. And I'm also hearing laparoscopic ecto. Basically, it's when like your egg is fertilized, but it's not where it's supposed to be. It's like on your ovary instead of like in it. Ectotopic pregnancy. So this to me is talking about like, there have been relationships and power dynamics in our lives that like are ancestral and also karmic, because it could be like in your family you learn to behave a certain way that has been disempowering, and those relationships are being ended. They're being ended, and whether or not you like it, like either you're going to be the one to end it or they're going to be the one to end it. And this is really showing to me this Uranus symbol sigil on the Wheel of Fortune card. So like massive changes, things that have had to happen for a long time. Either you're going to end it or your spirit is going to end it for you. And I'm also seeing the Earth in the Wheel of Fortune. So there's going to be like cataclysmic change. And I mean, the things that I'm talking about, like the natural disasters that I'm referencing, those are cataclysms ultimately, so that's something like in our relationships, in our 3D relationships, we're going to be finally getting free. And that sounds really great, but it's also really scary for a lot of people because, change is scary, especially when it's like things that we thought would always be there, things that we thought would always like be the way that they are. And like we may feel, then I get King of Cups. And that is like on top of the Prince of Cups, it is with Cancer. And so this to me is saying like, integration. I get the 9 of Pentacles in the reverse position. As we're growing and expanding within ourselves, we're coming more into our power and we're going to find stability, and but it's about choosing to ground into state stability. Because as I said, like these foundations that have been like shoddy, slipshod, they've been unstable, those are ending. And where we've been plugged up, I'm saying that because of this, but anal retentive. So like where we've been holding things inside, we're going to be expressing them. And we don't need to do that in an explosive way. We can just like ease our way out of these relationships. Just take yourself out of the relationship. Not everything needs to be this, like, as I said, cataclysm in our own lives. It's just a matter of like, because that would be based on the ego. If what we want is peace and serenity, then we don't need to argue with anyone. We don't need to defend our side. We just need to choose ourselves. And keep choosing yourself. Doesn't matter if people don't understand your decisions. Doesn't matter if people disagree with your decisions. Keep choosing yourself, because ultimately, the more that we choose ourselves, the deeper we go into ourselves. And the more capacity we have for stability, for security, for groundedness, for love, for peace, for happiness. So, these relationships have been like keeping us from being able to be creative, keeping us from being able to produce at the level that we are meant to produce, because they've been draining our power, our sacral energy. We've been feeling very dried up. We've been feeling like if you've been feeling like, oh, I try everything and I can't get it. So you're saying like, that is the old way and this is the new way. That's not how things are going to continue in this new age. Birthing new creations, dreaming a new world into being, that can only happen when we are no longer allowing these vampiric energetic vampires to drain our energy. And so for me, if energies and entities are coming to me, and this is even as people, because people can be vessels for these things, just as people can be vessels for angelic energy, frequencies, divinity, all of these things, they can also be vessels for demonic energies and entities. And so when I see that in somebody, like I've decided like, if their spirit comes to me, or especially if they're telepathic, that's another thing, because a lot of people are going to be coming into this really showing trust your gifts, trust that what you're experiencing is real. If people are coming to me in the ethers and I know that this person is infested with entities, I'm just going to be like, no, I'm not fucking with you. You're a demon. Get the fuck away from me. Call in Sekhmet, call in Kali, call in whatever energies, Archangel Michael, whatever energies and entities I need to call in order to protect myself and pull those cords out of me as much as I need to. It's not about trying to fix relationship in the 3D anymore. The relationship in the 3D is fraught. It has nothing to do with you. You can only change your side of things. So get your energy right within. And also you get your energy right within, you take back your power by like pulling the plug on these relationships. because imagine they are a device that has a plug going into you, going into your sacral chakra, and it's draining the battery power of your sacral, so you can't create the things that you've wanted to create. Pull the plug on that and keep that energy for yourself, because they want to drain your light because they feel like they don't have theirs. Like I said, people can be like, oh, that's an NPC, that's an NPC. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, one day they're going to awaken, one day their spirit. I'm not talking about their human body, I'm talking about their spirit. They're going to get their karma. You don't worry about that. You just worry about yours. Don't get caught up in those karmic cycles anymore. Karma is a Sanskrit word for action. So you're saying, listen to your heart. Let your heart guide you. It's not going to lead you astray. There's going to be more and more evidence coming out of, the ancient truths that we already know to be true, many of us. There's going to be more and more coming out about the veracity, the truth, the veracity of these ancient civilizations. There's going to be more and more coming out about life off of Earth in the scientific community. We get Peridot, magnetize your motivation. Hiddenite, claim your happy place. This is reclaiming our time. Maxine Waters, reclaiming our time, reclaiming our power. And, in the 3D, you may seem like a cold-hearted bitch, but like if you're actually operating from love, loving yourself first, loving your higher power and loving yourself first. And I'm seeing here, this here, coming into divine connection with those around us. You know what I mean? If you are operating from a space of love and you're ending relationships and you're ending interactions because it's causing you harm, then that's not being cold-hearted. Actually, that is exactly the kind of energy that we need, because we are not obligated to be in spaces that are causing us harm. Find your center. Where to put it, meditation cushion adjacent. So spirit is really saying, like, we really need to spend more time going deep with ourselves, meditating, centering our spiritual practice, tuning in to the hidden wisdom and strengthening those connections. I feel like a lot of people are going to have deepening of their skills and supernatural abilities. Go with your gut, Carnelian. As I said, I feel like these colors that we're getting here, for me, this orange, this is having to do with the sacral chakra. And that's really about like being able to trust ourselves, building on the sacral chakras after the root chakra. The root chakra is the foundation. We have to be operating with integrity and trusting being a person that can trust ourselves, which means that we are operating from a place of actually being trustworthy. And with these colors, Hiddenite and Peridot, these colors to me are talking about the inner earth. They're talking about Lemuria. We're going to be hearing more and more about that. More and more Lemurian starseeds are going to be activated. More and more those timelines are going to become apparent, and those memories are going to be activated for a lot of people. The ley lines are going to be activated, and so that's why there's a lot of these like seismic shifts that are going on with the planet shifting, and earthquakes, tsunamis. I feel like there's going to be a tsunami just like the one that happened in like 2004. There's going to be another tsunami like that, and I feel like it's going to be in Southeast Asia again. There are going to be monsoons. There are going to be like a lot of natural disasters and devastation is going to be happening. So it is actually important that people start making plans. Like, what do you think that you're going to do about that? How are you going to handle that? And ask spirit for guidance. I would recommend like getting into astrocartography and looking at where your ley lines are, like what is a good place for you to be, and really getting to be self-sovereign and someone who can like tap into your own power. And the Earth Star chakra is also coming up for me. Dolphin frequencies are coming up for me, so there are going to be a lot of like ears ringing, a lot of synchronicities, a lot of supernatural communications going on. And so also that means that a lot of people losing their minds, just going completely out of their mind is what I'm hearing. And that's because crown chakra activations, not everybody has the mind to be able to handle that. Like for me, I incarnated into a bloodline that was powerful enough to handle the very, very, very esoteric codes that are encoded in my energy. You know what I mean? And not everybody, because a lot of people have weak minds. Narcissistic people are weak people. They have weak minds. And these, you know, people who are in codependent relationships are, you know, weak of will. And these are all trauma responses. Being involved in these relationships are all trauma responses. And it does have a lot to do with the trauma of colonization, socialization, and indoctrination into this colonial structure that we exist in. But we have to, as I said, take back our power. That's what this is all about. By going within and remembering who we are, we step into our power, we step into our purpose. And as I said, our purpose is to come more into oneness with our higher self. The truth of who we are, and the truth of who we are is oneness and divinity. And so anything that is fractious and fragmenting is something that we're being called away from. And so if you are in these kinds of, if you find that you are constantly in these toxic dynamics, you need to work with a trained professional to learn how to divest from these ways of being and forge new neural pathways that are healthier and get well adjusted. And so these people, like when you start receiving crown chakra upgrades, like if you are imbalanced within your mental space and you're out of alignment, it could really push you over the edge into experiencing like psychosis. And this makes it really, really easy for, you know, energy, like vessel hijacking and energetic possession. So yeah, that's what I'm getting for that. And I'm seeing in this card now, STFU and let's do this. Like, just dedicate yourself to the work. And anybody who is not supportive of that work, it doesn't need to be like a big blowout. As I said, Spirit is saying like not. And yeah, this Aragonite find your center is telling me I'm focused on the geometric bursts called star clusters. And that to me is like, has to do with Ra. As I was saying, Ra has been coming up, the sun in all of those cards. It's activating our Ajna, our third eye chakra, activating our crown chakra. And, you know, we need to be able to have a practice to download and ground those codes and like process them in a holistically generative way, in a like productive way that actually is useful and helpful. So there might be, I live in New York City, and like, you know, there are periods of times when there's just like a lot of unwell people who are on the skids, let's say, just trolling the subway, just like out on the street, you know, yelling at people, attacking people. And it's not only people who are like homeless and like bottoming out in substance abuse or like struggling with their mental health. It's also just people who like are even just violent people who are like acting out their trauma and like going around, and like, you know, active shooters. I feel like there's going to be a rise in like active shooters because a lot of these people who are like, they're fed up, they don't know how to deal with that feeling, and they feel like they're going to take things into their own hands. I actually just Opal is on the bottom of the deck. Feel all your feels, and so to like deepen your intuition. And opalite has to do with 12th dimension. It has to do with Christ consciousness. It has to do with like mana. It has to do with the high heart. And that to me is just saying, like I said, like trust that like this is part of the process. What's going on in the external world is part of the process. And it's like, it's not necessarily meant to happen, but like it is being used for the better and for the best. So it's really important to just like protect ourselves as these things are happening, and don't become obsessive about like what's going on in the external world. Really just do your best to focus on like what's going on in your world, what's going on with you, with and showing up for yourself, and like, you know, the healthy relationships that are able to help us grow as people. I might split this here and make this a part 2. So if I do decide to do that, thank you for watching this, and I hope that it's been helpful. I hope that you can use it to your benefit, and yeah, take care, be well, and remember, remember who you are. Peace.